Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. It is Sunday, February 4th, 1 p.m. Eastern. Rainy outside, but there's crypto to keep us company. So, a couple things before we get into it. We're going to be looking at the altcoins. We're going to be looking at the big three, and then I will do some Q&A with the YouTubers out there on the live. And let's also want to point out that I just put out a ship chain ICO. It's a new coin. It's not currently trading right now, but it will be in the next couple of months. And it is a project that we're going to keep an eye on more for fundamental reasons. So check out that video. It's just some information. Again, I suggest everybody do their own research and empower themselves with their own knowledge and information. And that can go a long way in terms of the potential for profit. Obviously, high risk, high reward scenario, but there is an opportunity there, and we're going to be looking at a way to profit from it. So, also going to give away a couple free courses. So once this video is uploaded and recorded, again, not the live version here, but once it is recorded, go onto that video and comment, and I will pick some random people and give away some courses again. And let's get into it. We'll start with the big three. The alts that we're going to look at that were voted on by members are NEO, EOS, VEN, ICX, and WTC. And then I will start paying attention to the YouTube chat. But until then, not going to be looking at any questions in there, so save yourself the trouble. So starting off with Bitcoin, we're going to start on the longer term timeframes, and then we're going to zoom in. So we'll start with the weekly, the daily, then we'll go shorter and shorter. So starting off with the weekly time frame, we're still obviously in consolidation mode, and we're going to look for a reversal in the trend once the daily and the weekly charts start forming higher lows and higher highs. And that's nowhere near happening at this point. That's weeks away at the soonest. So the bears do have control. It is up to the bulls to prove themselves and to, turn the trend around. And we cannot give the bulls any benefit of the doubt and say, oh, well, we're hitting psychological 7,500, so it's time for the bulls to show up. That's doing too much assuming. We have to be looking for signals that the bulls are showing up. And, we could pull back and destroy this uptrend on the weekly chart. That is a possibility that we need to prepare for. Again, we always have to assume worst case scenario, what we're going to do and how we're going to react to that. And that way we're prepared in any scenario and we don't find ourselves like a deer in the headlights, not having any idea what to do. So at this point, again, that key support on the weekly time frame I'm looking at is the low of that last consolidation, and that's down here at 5,511. That's a pretty important level for me. If we do break that level, that is a significant blow to the overall uptrend on this weekly time frame. We are still well above that level, and even down at the low of this dump, we still have 30% until we encounter that level. So I don't expect to hit that anytime soon, but the faster we hit that and the more oversold that we get on the daily time frame, the more significant the bounce is going to be. So the daily on this at this point is a potential bear flag, and a bear flag comes after a dump, and it's a little parallel channel of support and resistance before continuation to the downside. So we have to be absolutely, again, prepared for the potential that this is a short-term bounce, and this daily RSI is going to head back to oversold conditions, and we're going to break 7,500. We have to be prepared for that potential. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it is absolutely a possibility. This daily RSI didn't get very oversold. At the low of the candlestick and at the low of the dump, the RSI was in the upper 20s, which is pretty oversold, but you can see it cooled off slightly. And if we were to head back down and confirm the bear flag and see another leg to the downside and drop towards 7,000 psychological, this daily RSI would be back into the upper 20s and mid 20s again. So we're watching the exponential resistances. Multiple bounce attempts have rejected from these exponential resistances. And this bounce attempt from Bitcoin is not over yet. We're watching the 4-hour time frame. And at this point, the must hold was the 4-hour higher low, and we are still holding it. So the 4-hour uptrend is still intact. This is a very important level, 8,115. If we lose that level, that tells me we're heading right back down towards our lows. And that low is down at 7,540. So still in a higher low pattern. We're attempting to form a 4-hour bullish reversal candlestick right now. We rejected from exponential resistance initially, and once we saw a rejection and started pulling back, that's when we knew we have to form a higher low compared to that level. The hourly RSI was getting towards oversold. Now that the bulls are trying to see a bounce play out, that hourly RSI is cooling off from oversold. So if we were to break that higher low on the 4-hour time frame of 8,115, we will see this hourly RSI head back down to oversold conditions. But again, it was a scenario this morning where the hourly RSI was just touching oversold, and we were looking for the bulls to defend the support level. So when you have oversold conditions approaching a key support level, you can have some more confidence that the bounce is going to get going from that level. So the top of this bounce at this point, just looking at the 15-minute time frame, you can see the 15-minute is nothing but lower highs and lower lows. The bulls have to change that. The high of this bounce at this point is 8,570, and the bulls need to break that and continue this move. So again, hourly chart needs higher lows and higher highs. And at this point, again, we're a ways away from that happening. We need a bullish MACD cross. We need a lot of things to develop. Again, it's all up to the bulls to prove themselves. They have a ton of work to do, and we're not going to rule them out. But again, going to be skeptical. I'm skeptical of the bulls on all of these moves, and they have to prove themselves with follow through. And right now we have a scenario in the market, fundamentally speaking and psychologically speaking, where people aren't racing to buy in. There's no urgency. There's no sense of urgency for people to jump back into Bitcoin. You know, we've had some nice good news with Litecoin, which has made it very powerful the past couple of days we'll be looking at, but no real news for Bitcoin that, you know, has people saying, oh, I better get in because that's our bottom for now. Everybody's saying, well, maybe we're going to dump down again and head to lower lows. So again, it's the lack of any kind of urgency, which is making these bounces less powerful as people are being more patient with their capital and waiting for re-entry. So that's where we stand with Bitcoin. Of course, the correlations are still there, and we definitely need to be aware of the correlations, but those correlations are always shifting. At some points, coins are better to play than other ones. And to figure out who's the best play, I'm using the ETH BTC chart and the LTC BTC chart just to see, you know, who's positioned better. Whichever one of those charts is in an uptrend is going to be seeing bigger gains relative to Bitcoin. So that means, you know, if the LTC chart is really bullish, LTC BTC chart, if that's really bullish as it has been the past 2 days, that means that for every bit that Bitcoin's going to go up, Litecoin is going to go up a bit more significantly, and vice versa. We saw that with Ethereum pretty much all of January, where its ETH BTC chart was on fire and it was seeing a lot of strength. But the past couple of days, that momentum and hype has shifted to Litecoin. So I traded Litecoin yesterday, the first time in 2018, and locked in some nice profit. But it's looking at those charts comparative to Bitcoin that tells us, you know, who should I be playing? And as I keep saying in these videos, I'm using Bitcoin levels to make my decisions. For example, if Bitcoin's dumping and oversold on the hourly time frame, I'm going to be looking to get into Litecoin if that Litecoin BTC chart is really bullish, which it has been the past 2 days. And I will, even if Litecoin's not oversold on the hourly, I will anticipate that it is going to bounce with Bitcoin if Bitcoin does bounce as well. So that's where we stand on Bitcoin. We need, again, hourly, higher, low. We haven't even hit the top of this hourly bounce yet. So once we top out on this hourly bounce, we'll need to consolidate, form a higher low and a higher high, and see a bullish MACD cross to see some significant recovery. So checking in on Ethereum, Ethereum's lost some of its steam the past couple of days. And again, that's because Litecoin is fundamentally taking some attention with its news and its hype of LitePay. And that's definitely worth checking out, you know, if you're not aware of it yet at this point. And we saw, you know, money going into Litecoin because of that. So here on Ethereum, the weekly time frame, still consolidating, no red flags. The red flag for me would be a loss of this support level, the low of the last consolidation down at 460. We have plenty of space before we get to that level. We're still consolidating. This weekly chart has been on fire, and we need to see the daily chart regain higher lows and higher highs. Again, the daily chart was completely ruined by Bitcoin. So what I mean by that is the correlation completely destroyed this chart. And as I said in the last video, which resonated with a lot of people, so I'm going to repeat it, when we have, you know, if you were looking at technical analysis for ETH alone, it would be a lot harder. This is a complete fake out. We had a bull break and we were heading to higher highs, and then we dump and break all kinds of support levels. You know, how can we trade if it's not going to be following the rules of technical analysis? Well, the answer is Bitcoin gives us the clues. And Bitcoin on GDAX formed a double top when Ethereum was up here at 12,000 and that or 1,200. And that told me and told us that, you know, we have to be cautious now because Bitcoin just formed a double top on the daily. And if we pull back from here, it's going to take Ethereum with it. And that is what ended up playing out. And very quickly, we went from 1,200 to 700 and pulled back a very solid 40+%. So we can never take our eyes off of Bitcoin. It's just the way that the cryptocurrency space is right now. Love it or hate it, the correlation is there, and it's not changing anytime soon. So here we have an inside bar on the daily time frame for Ethereum, and we're forming a second inside bar right now. We've still got 6 hours to go in this candlestick. And if we can hold 841, we will keep an inside bar, and that will give us a clear break tomorrow. We should break this inside bar tomorrow if it does form up over the next 6 hours or so. Also note the exponential moving averages. Bearish crosses going here on these exponential moving averages. Don't disregard that because that has not happened in a long time. Ever since this run-up started from the 300s, these exponential moving averages, the 12 and the 26 period, have been bullish, and now we're seeing them cross bearish. So we have to keep an eye on that. We'll see if we reject from them on our first attempt to get back over them. It's certainly been giving the Bitcoin bulls trouble trying to get back over those exponential resistances, and now Ethereum's in the same boat. So on the 4-hour time frame for Ethereum, again, exponential resistance, rejecting from them just like Bitcoin was, still maintaining that higher low on the 4-hour. That must hold level is the low of the inside bar on the daily. That's 841.61 to be exact. Same thing as Bitcoin. Bullish reversal 4-hour candlestick is trying to form. Our recent high is key resistance. That's up at 998. And that was a scenario of what we call insurance, taking out insurance. And what I mean by that is taking profit under a key psychological resistance level where there's a ton of resistance, a big wall, and locking in some profit under that. In the past, when the market was really strong, we would then enter back with market orders to take down the wall if the bulls showed that they had momentum to do so. Otherwise, we take our profit under the wall, we lock in those gains, and then we watch for the pullback. So this was a scenario in this current market environment. The odds of seeing the bulls, break a big wall and see significant consolidation aren't very likely. So we rejected just under 1,000 psychological resistance by $2, and we have now pulled back. And at this point, we pulled back literally 15% below that level. So taking out some insurance and locking in those gains, assuming the bulls aren't going to have the momentum on the first attempt to take out that key resistance, worked really well. And we are looking for, again, the same thing. Hourly, need a higher low and a higher high and a bull MACD cross on the hourly to see this momentum shift, because the bears have taken over momentum now all last night and into this morning. Litecoin, again, much more bullish the past couple of days. This is the weekly time frame. And again, it is that hype in terms of the potential for Litecoin Pay this coming week and, more broad-based acceptance, and you can use it wherever Visa is accepted. And it's certainly interesting to keep an eye on, and we'll see how, if it's utilized out there in the real world. Definitely something to be keeping an eye on. But again, just in terms of technically speaking, it has been stronger. Litecoin has been stronger the past 2 days because of this news and this hype. And here is our higher low on the weekly. Again, easily a higher low. The last period of consolidation was down at $50. So we dropped all the way to 100, and the bulls are still twice, we're 100% over our low of last consolidation. So we do have a potential bullish reversal hammer trying to form on this weekly time frame. But again, until the daily chart gives us higher lows and higher highs, doesn't really mean much. So here we are rejecting from exponential resistance, just like Bitcoin on the daily chart. And we got another rejection here as we saw a move from oversold conditions on the daily with Bitcoin. We had a stronger bounce. That LTC BTC chart has been on fire. And here we are setting our top of the move up at 175 resistance. And now it looks like this daily chart is going to have to pull back and form a higher low and a higher high to get the bull MACD cross to change the trend and momentum and start to see a shift. If we don't see that higher low and higher high, every single bounce is just another lower high, keeping the downtrend intact and keeping the bears in full control. So we have to see the higher low and higher high. 4-hour time frame, look at how much more wiggle room we have above this support. And that just goes to show you, compared to Ethereum and Bitcoin, we exploded to the upside. There was a ton of bull volume on this 4-hour time frame, and you compare bull volume on the 4-hour time frame and it doesn't even compare. So you can see right now we're pulling back and testing these supports on Ethereum and Bitcoin. We're right there on both of these names. There's a lack of bull volume on the 4-hour. Completely different scenario on Litecoin, finally breaking free from that correlation. And again, it's fundamental news leading to an increase in volume, and the increase in volume is what breaks these correlations. So here's a bullish reversal 4-hour candlestick trying to form a higher low. 146.92 is the support that the bulls are trying to bounce off of and follow through with. And we will likely, if we do see a 4-hour bounce here, and if Bitcoin can get going and we can see the correlation favor the bulls, we will likely form an equilibrium pattern on the 4-hour time frame. We have pulled back significantly enough from the top that even if we do bounce and see a solid bounce, we're not likely to see a break of 175. We're likely to see a lower high and then a higher low and a tightening 4-hour pattern. So bulls have the attention, they have the hype and the fundamentals heading into this coming week. And the question is, what can they do with it? Can they turn things around and see some significant shifts in momentum? I'm looking at a key resistance right now on Litecoin, 161.50 and 162.75, the top of these two little bounce attempts as the bulls try and establish a base of support and see the bulls take back over in the short term. And again, it's going to be completely dependent on Bitcoin as to whether or not this bounce gets going and can see this move back into the mid 160s for Litecoin to give us that 4-hour equilibrium pattern. All depends on Bitcoin. So we're going to get into some altcoins here, and we're going to start off with NEO and USD. NEO, we're going to look at Bitfinex, and EOS is going to be Bitfinex, and then the other three here, they're going to be on Binance. So here on NEO, weekly chart, we have consolidation. Again, the low of last consolidation. And we actually have a bit of a double bottom here, 93.53 and 93.87. So the bulls did defend that support from the initial pullback. The all-time high candlestick set a low, and we did still hold that level. So if I were in a position, in a swing position, this would be the support level that I would utilize. And if that were to break, I would want to be out of a position because we could then pull back, another 10-20% pretty easily once that support breaks. So that's a pretty important support level going forward. And you can see that daily chart here giving us that double bottom. And look at how similar we look to Ethereum. We had the bull break on the daily, and then it was completely erased. And let's just go back to Ethereum real quick just to see a comparison. So bull break, complete dump. And here it is on NEO, very, very similar charts. So here, daily inside bar, and it looks like it just broke bearish. So a bear break of the daily inside bar. Ethereum has not broken that inside bar yet. It did form a higher low at this point. So rejecting from exponential resistance, again, bearish exponential cross here of the 12 and the 26 for the first time in a very long time, since back at $40 or so. So NEO bulls are starting to lose some momentum, and if we lose this double bottom, it will be a clear bear break. In terms of resistance, it's very strongly correlated, you can see. So we never got our higher low and higher high on the 4-hour time frame. This is still what I would call, well, it's not an equilibrium because we did get a bear break. So we lost the 4-hour higher low, not significantly, and the bulls are trying to show up. We only broke it by less than 1%. So it's not a significant bear break, but it is worth noting that we did see a bear break on increasing bear volume and a bear MACD cross all on the 4-hour time frame, and we did not form a higher low and higher high on the 4-hour chart comparative to the high of the original bounce, and we did on all of the big three. So I can say that comparative to the big three, NEO is slightly more bearish because we broke the 4-hour higher low and we did not break the 4-hour resistance earlier. So in terms of changing this trend around, hourly time frame again needs to start forming higher lows and higher highs. We need the 4-hour time frame to regain higher lows and higher highs. That's not going to happen anytime soon. That's going to take a couple days at the earliest, and we're watching for correlations to the big three, and it's slightly more bearish. EOS on the weekly time frame, inside bar bear break. So that alert would have gone out at 1160 on the inside bar, breaking bearish. And again, these alert systems really loving the new, the climax, the volume climax at the top and at the bottom. And some people use that volume climax indicator last night for the oversold dump on the big three. And really looking forward to playing with that one. I think that's going to be one of our most useful ones. I've been using the RSI, the inside bars, and the price shears as my favorite ones, but definitely going to be looking at that volume climax indicator to give us some good ideas of overbought tops and oversold bottoms. So bearish break on EOS, support on the weekly. The next level is down at 750. We're watching for that 750 level to hold after the bear break. And again, the bear break occurred at 1160 and we dropped all the way down to 840. That is saving yourself if you're playing that inside bar. And even if you're long-term, let's say I'm a long-term bull on EOS, if I exit on that bear break with intention of reloading cheaper, I can then reload 20+% pretty easily without even nailing the top and the bottom. I can reload 20% more coins just on that signal alone. So here on the daily chart, bear break of a tightening pattern where we had our high, our low of consolidation, lower high, had a little higher low here, another lower high, another higher low, and that is where the bear break did occur, and that is where the inside bar was on the weekly time frame. So an equilibrium pattern on the daily time frame broke bearish. The bears have been in control since then, and we're looking down at supports of 841 and 750 as two very important levels on the daily time frame. And you can see we have completely lost the bull momentum and the uptrend once that equilibrium pattern broke bearish. And here we are down near the lows, looking at the 4-hour time frame. Again, correlation is there to the big three very significantly. We have our low, the high of the bounce. We got our higher low and higher high on the 4-hour, just like Bitcoin did, but we pulled all the way back. And just before that support level, bulls attempting to form yet another 4-hour higher low right now. So that's down at 914, and we just formed a higher low at 928. Must hold those levels. If we lose these 4-hour higher lows on Bitcoin or on Ethereum or on any of these names, that is a significant bear break if that were to occur. So that's what we're looking at on EOS. VEN coming off the all-time high, very healthy consolidation so far, establishing a new support right now at 4525. That's the must-hold level to keep the bulls in control. The bulls would love to see a solid bounce back into the sevens, and then an equilibrium pattern on the weekly time frame forming is the most likely scenario from how we are set up. Here's the daily chart, healthy consolidation, no dump. Look at the bear volume. Declining bear volume, you can say, oh, we had an increase in bear volume, but if you look at the candlestick, a long lower wick tells us a lot of that volume is bull volume. So we can't just assume that's an increase in bear volume because the candlestick shape is telling us the bulls were definitely involved in that volume. So here we are trying to break the lower high pattern of consolidation. We see every little bounce attempt here on these green candlesticks is another lower high. We have our low established, and now it's up to the bulls to turn around this momentum. If we break 6365, and then I'm looking up at 643, break those two levels and the daily lower high pattern breaks and the bulls show back up, and we look for the MACD to start curling up towards a bull cross. We're forming an inside bar on the daily time frame right now, but VEN BTC, out of the names that we've just looked at, is easily the most bullish name on the daily and the weekly chart so far. And we just have to break the lower high pattern to indicate that our daily higher low and our low of consolidation is in for now, and the bulls are ready to make their way back up to test some of these recent resistances that were formed on the way down during this consolidation. And checking on the 4-hour time frame, just noticing some more details, same levels on the daily chart to be watching, and support on the 4-hour. Bulls want to hold. We have 533 here as a 4-hour higher low, and we just formed another 4-hour higher low at 55. ICX BTC coming off the all-time high, pulling back significantly. We don't have a lot of support established here, so we have to be cautious. And just looking at the daily chart and how we have consolidated, it is a much different scenario of consolidation compared to VEN. So just again, a very smooth slope, nice and contained, no big bear volume, no big dump downs. And when we did see that one big dump down, we had a nice long lower wick recovery. ICX, high bear volume and a straight up dump over the last 6 days, and took out all of the supports that were established over the last 6 weeks. So it is a different scenario. The style of consolidation, the speed and the magnitude that it took place is more severe, and it favors the bears more. So support now is the low of this pullback at 4.7, and it was bearish that we broke this low back here of 5.3. So again, in order to change this trend back in favor of the bulls on a daily time frame, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Step number one is needing a bounce. We'll bounce and we will set a lower high. Then we need the higher low and the higher high. That's at least a week or two from playing out, best case scenario for the bulls. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen anytime soon unless there's some very significant bull news. And we have to be cautious because the bears are showing themselves here on ICX. So here's the 4-hour time frame, rejecting from exponential resistance. Haven't really established a higher low. We saw the bounce. We saw a higher low, lower high, lower low, bear break. So we're nowhere near changing this trend just yet on ICX until we get 4-hour higher lows and higher highs as step number one. And again, not really close to that happening anytime soon. WTC BTC on Binance again. Inside bar trying to form on the, actually I take that back. We just broke just barely, but it is a little bit of a base of support down here to be watching. And it's just starting to consolidate off the all-time high. So we look down at the daily chart. We can see, again, healthy consolidation, no red flags on volume. The bulls trying to establish a daily higher low after a big bull run. So our daily higher low and must-hold level in the short term is 21475. And we have the high of the bounce, and that's up at 334. So that's our range right now to be watching on the daily. We have an inside bar forming, the 4-hour time frame, higher low and higher high. Very similar correlation to the big three, where we still have a higher low attempting to form this morning on the 4-hour time frame. That level is 2763, and we must hold the 4-hour higher low of 27, and we'll see if the bulls can make their way back up into the threes to try and keep this 4-hour uptrend since the dump intact. And that's pretty much where we stand on the big three overall. Need to keep the 4-hour uptrend intact since the dump. If we lose that 4-hour uptrend, we're just looking right back down to the low of the dump. So that's where we stand on all of these coins. Again, VEN, BTC, clearly the lead bull. WTC, definitely a lead bull as well on the daily time frame, coming off that all-time high. Litecoin has had bullish momentum. It's kept some nice control for the bulls, but overall the space is still weak. The cryptocurrency space does not have a lot of confidence for the bulls just yet, and we need Bitcoin bulls to show up and turn around the daily trend in order to give confidence. But where we stand right now, that daily chart on Bitcoin is a potential bear flag, and this 4-hour chart not giving a ton of confidence just yet that we are going to see, bullish action. For this 4-hour chart to stay in favor of the bulls with the higher low, we pretty much need the bulls for the rest of this afternoon into tonight and into tomorrow morning to show up and keep this support level. It is much more likely in terms of just percentage odds. What are the odds that the bulls are going to continue this uptrend versus what are the odds that we're going to break this uptrend and the bears are going to take back over? Just because of where we stand and the proximity to support to the proximity where we stand to resistance, it is more likely that a bear break is going to occur at this point than a bull break. Now, if we can get some signs, some increasing bull volume and some follow through, that will shift those odds back in favor of the bulls a bit. But as of right now, that's not what we're seeing, and we're seeing, a bearish MACD cross close in. So at this point, it is going to take a catalyst, in my opinion, to get, the bulls and the media and the herd, essentially the herd back in favor here of Bitcoin, as this daily chart is certainly not in their favor, and it won't be until we get the higher low, higher high, and these exponential resistances as supports. So that is where we stand on the cryptocurrency space here Sunday, February 4th. And now I'll look at some of these YouTube comments. Let's see if we can get some questions. I'll do a couple more altcoins. And again, comment on the video once it's recorded and uploaded, and we will pick course winners for some free courses. If we get a double bottom, that would definitely be a signal, a support level to be going off of. And we could get that double bottom and then break the lower high pattern. But again, it's going to require a lot of work for the bulls to pull that off. And they are going to need some kind of catalyst to do so. And if you want me to look at an altcoin, please give me the coin, the pairing, and the exchange that you want me to look at. I don't think the Senate meeting is going to have a huge impact on the market. It all depends on how much information we get and how much, in-depth information they hash out. So it is possible if they were to, the problem is with the government and the space these days is anything that the government's going to say is going to be more likely bearish than bullish, just in terms of, what are the odds that the Senate's going to come out and say a lot of positive cryptocurrency things that the market wants to hear versus that they're going to say some negative things. And I would say that negative would be in favor. GVT BTC on Binance. Daily chart, pretty contained. We did see a nice bull break on some big bull volume, but it also came with a big upper wick of profit taking. So watching for the higher low pattern on the daily time frame to be maintained, that's important. 149 is a key support level here, and we just bounced off of 1.5. So essentially that's a double bottom. If we break 149, that is a red flag on the daily time frame here for the bulls. And we have resistance of 19.2 and then a new major resistance up at 2.8. So it's all about 14.9 and 15. If those levels break, the bears are going to start taking control of this daily trend. Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl. I'll be grateful that you get to watch the greatest quarterback to ever live one more time. Total market cap is definitely good information to be looking at. It tells us, is money leaving the space? And the answer is yes. And just myself, I've locked in profit over the last couple of months, and I've been shifting it to the Canadian MJ space. I've been shifting it to trading with stocks, just moving things around and diversifying. I don't want the 75% of the money to my name in cryptocurrency. I want to be diversified, and I want some money in property, and I want some money. If we're going to accrue wealth long term, cryptocurrency is a great tool to use, but definitely diversification for times like this is very important. So there are people moving money out of cryptocurrencies, And that total market cap chart, while I don't really use technical analysis for that total market cap, and you can, it's information that you can chart for sure, but it lets us know, is money leaving the space? And after such a crazy run up, it's not surprising that money is leaving the space. The question is going to be, when is money going to come back? And is there going to be fundamental reason for that money to come back and to get the herd excited about this space again? Because right now it's all, oh, everybody was right. And you have to imagine the herd and the people that are putting their money into the cryptocurrencies that are not traders and are not familiar with technical analysis. Right now, what's going through their mind is, oh man, all these talking heads on TV, they were right. And I made a big mistake. And it's so very easy for the herd to be fearful when they don't have charts as a guide and they don't really understand, why things go up and down in markets. So to regain the confidence of the herd and the general market, we're going to need some major players to get involved. We're going to need some major companies to step it up. IBM is a great start. IBM, watching the NFL playoffs 2 weeks ago, IBM's putting out commercials for blockchain and shipping, which is on topic for the ShipChain ICO review that I just did. But these are big names getting involved in the space. And like I keep saying, we need the fundamentals to start showing up. And Litecoin, if this Litecoin payment is widespread and starts getting used everywhere Visa is accepted, that's definitely a step in the fundamental direction that can get people excited about this space again. We're through the speculation craze and the speculation hype. We now need real world widespread applications for the bulls to get behind and to really feel comfortable about, investing in this space rather than just speculating on just dumping their money in and hoping that the charts keep going up for short-term gains. Scrolling through some questions here. 15-minute oversold bounce plays. My favorite oversold bounce plays are when, the more oversold levels lining up, the better. You give me a daily RSI, a 4-hour, an hourly, a 15-minute, and a 5-minute that are all oversold. That's when we get our significant bounces. That's when we make our most money the quickest. If you give me a setup that's only 5 and 15-minute RSI oversold, I'm a little bit more hesitant. Maybe I'm not going in with a full position. Maybe I am waiting until the hourly RSI gets oversold as well. Generally, when we get our first pullback after a strong bull move, the RSI will bounce on those shorter term oversold conditions. It'll be a small bounce, but it gets that bounce the first time. That's a general rule of thumb. And otherwise, 15-minute RSI is not just in an uptrend. It is more of an automatic, okay, look for an entry, but we're not in an uptrend, so it shifts. Because we're in a downtrend, we have to be more cautious and more picky. Again, make these trades come to us. Don't be out there looking for trades and say, oh, I'm going to settle for this one. It's a good enough setup. Well, sit on your hands and don't trade for a couple days if there's not a setup. Make the trades come to you. If I look at a chart and say, okay, the hourly chart is close to getting oversold, I'm going to wait until this hourly RSI is oversold before I make any decisions. And then I wait for that trade to come to me until it's a comfortable setup that I'm looking for. And then I will make the trade. I won't, rush anything and force any kinds of trades if the setup isn't there that I want. And yeah, Bitcoin just fell apart since I'm talking here. Bitcoin's back down to the low of this dump. This hourly bounce, very weak. Bulls have to hold 8253 and try and break the top of this bounce to give us an hourly higher low and higher high. Otherwise, we're heading right back down to our 4-hour higher low, 8,115 must hold level. The bulls really don't want to test that level. They want to bounce from right here. And the bulls, you can just tell they just are struggling so hard to put together any momentum. This is now our third rejection this morning from these 15-minute exponential resistances with an inability to form a higher low and a higher high. It's just continuation of a downtrend. NEO is, like I just said, I just gave the analysis on NEO. It's more bearish than most names that I just looked at. It broke the 4-hour higher low already. And now Bitcoin might be following along. Here's Bitcoin dumping to 5-minute oversold conditions. The 15-minute RSI is approaching oversold. The hourly RSI is approaching oversold. And the 4-hour RSI, if we break 8,115, we're heading back down into the sevens. And that 4-hour RSI with the daily will both get oversold again very quickly. Can't give any, individual advice on if you're bag holding. I don't know when your entry was. The lesson in bag holding is obviously stop losses and having some kind of exit strategy to allow you to re-enter cheaper. But at this point, if you haven't done so yet with the daily RSI oversold, I personally would not be exiting under daily oversold conditions. Our chat room, we let in people, 3 people or a few people every single day. We just have 2,000 people on the wait list, so it's a long process. But every single day we're letting a few new people in. I'll give away whatever course you want. I'll pick a winner and you can tell me if you want the entries and exits course or the crypto course. I use the alert system for oversold conditions and for price shears and all that. But in all honesty, I'm usually on the computer and I'm usually seeing it all anyways. It's ideal for people to get alerts when they're not on their computer, to give them the heads up to get back to the computer to see what's going on. So I envy you that are not spending 10 hours a day on the computer. Appreciate the tip, but we don't need tips. Just pay it forward in terms of sharing some knowledge. And if you do want to support us and support the channel, let's make it mutually beneficial and buy a course. We'll make some money off the course and you get some information and some knowledge for it rather than just a tip. In terms of which course is better, it all depends on your basis of technical analysis knowledge. Entries and exits is going to build the foundation of technical analysis knowledge, and the cryptocurrency course is applying it specifically to this sector. And I go over the order book and I go over playing oversold bounces and things like that. But generally, I mean, they obviously work the best when they're in tandem with each other because their information is definitely complementary. And there's a bundle deal when you buy both courses. It's 20% off both of them together, as opposed to $150 for the crypto course and $199 for entries and exits. And I'm starting to work on an advanced crypto course, but it's going to be a long, slow process, as I can pretty much only work on it on weekends. I did that last crypto course in 6 weekends in a row. I literally didn't go out. I didn't do anything for 6 weekends in a row. And I'm not going to be able to put in that kind of time again. So it is probably going to take months to do. But I am brainstorming ideas and love the feedback and love people, suggesting things that they want more information on. It does help me in terms of guiding, okay, what topic should I look more in depth on? The scope of the advanced course, again, it'll be, learning how to short the space, looking at a little bit more in depth on how to utilize stop losses, knowing when to re-enter after a stop loss gets triggered, a whole bunch of psychology stuff, looking at some ICOs and things like that, and altcoins. But again, it's in its infancy and it's not coming out anytime soon. So I'll certainly keep everybody aware. Taxes, definitely get a CPA to help with your taxes. And that's right, there are advantages. If you make yourself a business, you can write things off. You could write these courses off if you buy them. And there's different way to funnel your profits in rather than having them be capital gains. And again, need to consult a tax professional for ideas with that. But there are definitely beneficial strategies out there. Yeah, the crypto course is definitely applicable. I mean, it's technical analysis, so if you can chart it, there's manipulation in anything that you can trade. and the whales are definitely ingrained in this space and they're not going anywhere. So they are definitely, there's stock manipulation, there's cryptocurrency manipulation, and it's never going to change unless there's regulation. And I don't foresee any significant regulation to change that anytime soon. There's no expiration on the videos. They are hosted on our website and you have access for 150 years. I believe total market cap by year's end will be higher than where we stand right now. But again, my opinion of all of this stuff, I'm not going to sit here and try and pretend that my opinion is more valid than anybody's else. I'm good at reading charts. I'm good at trading. I'm good at technical analysis. But in terms of predicting, market cap and world sentiment and things like that, my guess is as good as anybody else's. RSI, use the 14-period setting. 3 indicators for trading: MACD, RSI, and volume. 3 most important. If you only have like $300, I would definitely continue saving up. You don't want to wipe out your entire $300 on courses. Education is essential. You absolutely do not want to trade with that without doing any education. So if the option is start trading with $300 or buy the courses, buy the courses. But also, you don't want to wipe yourself out. So I would suggest doing things for raising cash. I started my bankroll with high school jobs 8 years ago, and then I went to stocks and only recently went to crypto. But I was shoveling driveways and I was mowing lawns. I started a lawn mowing business and started to rival the big boys in the neighborhood. And we were mowing, a dozen lawns a week. So there are plenty of ways that you can build capital to then put into useful things like education. And I would certainly suggest doing that. I have no idea why some traders think volume is irrelevant. I think that's very silly. I've never heard of any serious traders that think volume is irrelevant. I do think paper trading is absolutely a good idea. That being said, you do not expose yourself to some of the emotional and psychological reactions that you will when it's real money. So it is different. I'm not going to deny that, but it is a great start to practice. You start paper trading to get a feel for, placing orders and knowing when to buy and sell and getting a feel for watching the charts play out. And then you start small. So you have some skin in the game and you see those emotions and you feel your heart racing when you're starting to enter a trade, and you start to recognize those things and then be able to conquer them the more that you experience them. So in terms of education, there's really nothing better than watching charts play out time and time again, repetition. I've looked at hundreds of thousands of charts in my life at this point. And the more you see, how do oversold bounces play out, and you watch, 5 oversold bounces, by the time you watch your 500th oversold bounce, you're going to have a lot better idea of what's going on and you're going to be a lot more comfortable. And with education and experience comes confidence, and those are all essential things if learning how to trade. If there's a huge sell wall, you want to sell just under that wall. And again, that's that experience or that example with Ethereum, where we bounced and we got just to 1,000, and there was a big wall at 1,000, and we pulled back at 998. So you want to be selling in the 990s there before the big sell wall. Not interested in opening a fund. Certainly get plenty of people asking to do it, both friends and family and in person. It honestly, it changes it. When it's other people's money, it's psychologically different for me. It's then stressful. When I'm playing with my money, it's a game. I'm playing a video game. I'm pushing buttons and I'm trying to get as many points as I can. And when I'm doing it with other people's money, that is a completely different environment, and it is very stressful and it's no longer fun. When I do it for myself, it's fun and I enjoy it. And when I'm doing it for other people, I don't enjoy it nearly as much. You can watch the walls move around. The more that the walls are jumping around, the more likely they are to not be real. If there's a wall that's just sitting there and it's not moving, and especially when it starts getting touched, if it starts getting chipped away and it's not moving, you know it's a real wall. Whereas, if it's bouncing around and it's moving with the price, and whenever there's some strength, it gets pulled. There's, it's that it's not a legitimate wall. Definitely notice in terms of times in the cryptocurrency space, definitely notice when the East Coast of the US wakes up at 6 a.m. Eastern in the mornings, there's usually more bullish action in that little window. ShipChain is one of the coins I'm interested in long term, Ethereum as well, and I just put out that ShipChain video on my YouTube channel a couple hours ago, so check that out. The MJ market is going to bounce within a couple of days, and if it doesn't, I'm going to add more. It will be once the more oversold we get in the MJ market, the stronger the bounce is going to be. If we get hourly RSIs in the single digits, we're going to very quickly bounce 15% off the bottom. At this point, short-term traders are blowing holders out of the water. I think I'm at maybe 3,500 or 3,600% in the last almost 9 months. In a week, it'll be 9 months, and Bitcoin would have to be in the 30 or 40 thousands to be beating that. MJ is the marijuana sector for stocks, and that's the other major sector that I'm playing. Fidelity is who I use to trade stocks. When the order book is thinning out, that means there's less resistance or support. There's less orders. It's thinner. It moves easier. So if there's a ton of orders, $100,000 in bullish action is not going to move the price as much as it would if it's thin. So there are coins that are thinly traded and they move much more rapidly on a small amount of dollar volume comparative to Bitcoin or these major names. Tether news is definitely worth paying attention to. Again, I'm not an expert. I haven't done in-depth research. It is something I would be very cautious of. I have MJ videos on the YouTube channel. Check those out. Fidelity. Definitely made more money in cryptocurrency comparative to stocks, but still making money in stocks as well. Definitely aware of Steam, tried it for a while, didn't gain any traction, and just didn't have the time to interact. It's a community like anything else. You need to follow people, you need to be reading their posts and stuff, and I just don't have time to do that. But it's a viable platform, and it's definitely interesting to watch to see how it'll play out from here. Definitely financially free at this point. Won't ever have a boss in the rest of my life. I haven't had a boss since high school. I would like to do an MJ course, absolutely. The problem is the MJ course will, need to be fundamentally driven, and that's going to change and date the course because the fundamentals are going to change so rapidly. The technical analysis course can absolutely be applied to the MJ sector. I'm 29 years old, turning the big 3-0 in a handful of months. No hot tub revelations recently, but when I was sick with the flu, I was definitely taking baths every day. Consistent profits while trading. It definitely took a few years to have the confidence and the realization, okay, I can do this for the rest of my life. And it was really mostly psychological barriers to get over to get to that point. But it does take a few years and a lot of time and a lot of commitment. Again, it's not easy. There's plenty of people that do it, but it is not easy. So most people give up. Telling you guys, the baths. Next major support level, if 6,000 or if 7,500 breaks for Bitcoin, psychological level, so 7,065, 6, but the major weekly level is 5,511. At this point, I don't have any time for one-on-one mentoring. There will be a time where I do in-person mentoring. Again, I'm exploring anything, going to talks and having conferences and renting out centers and all these things. That's definitely potential in the future, but right now, the only in-person stuff that I'm doing is with close friends. It's definitely a good time to start keeping an eye on the MJ sector as we're getting this very significant pullback. We're looking at summer for the doors opening up towards recreational. And we are, again, I've been holding off telling friends and family to get into the sector because it has been way too overbought and way too much euphoria. But that's changing as we are dumping with the overall market. And again, I put a lot of in-depth videos out for Canadian MJ, and I would check out my Canadian MJ video and my US markets video from this weekend, and that's 40 minutes of watch time right there. Elliott Wave, I've definitely explored it and played with it. I don't like how much predicting it does, and it also factors in time. You're making it harder for yourself if time is a factor as well. You're saying, the price is gonna hit this projection by this time, and it's too much predicting for me. I definitely use a variation of waves in my own analysis, and that's just through observation and little systems that I've come up with on my own. So I'm not going to say it doesn't work, but in general, it is too much projecting for me and too much guessing. I don't still have a long position in Gollum. Once Bitcoin started pulling back significantly, I liquidated back into all fiat so I could maneuver the space without being subject to correlations. Options course is definitely on the schedule. Chart Guys James is looking to start making an options course, and I'll team up with him to do an options course. But again, we're working so much every single day, over 10 hours a day, that anything that we want to do extracurricular on top of that really has to wait till weekends, and that obviously takes a long time to complete. If I were to just take off 2 weeks, I could pump a course out pretty quickly, but can't just drop everything like that. Have not messed with the Wyckoff. Why? No, I have not. I'll check that out. For long-term trading opportunities versus quick trade, it's the long-term trend. If it's bullish, then to ride the trend. If it is an oversold bounce, the more oversold conditions you have, daily 4-hour, if all of those line up oversold, the bounce is generally anticipated to play out longer. In terms of payment systems for the alert system other than credit cards, you could message alerts at thechartguys.com and we could potentially work something out. We're very flexible with stuff. Again, we're just a few dudes. And of course, we have more people on our team now, including some women, but Jason and I, who started it, we're very flexible with stuff. Of course, I pay taxes. Pay your taxes. Otherwise, you will have a giant headache at some point in your life, and they will tack on interest to anything that you owe them. Do yourself a favor. Talk about, wanting to be psychologically sound. You have to worry about the IRS coming after you. I have a friend that I worked with on a farm up in Maine, and he's just a good old backcountry boy, and he was doing a bunch of fishing, deep sea fishing and stuff, and he didn't pay his taxes. He is going to owe the IRS for the rest of his life. He is never going to escape it. The amount of headache and summons and all these things that he has to go through. I mean, at this point, he owes more than he's made because the interest keeps getting is racked up. And it's just literally a ball and chain that he is never going to escape because he did not pay his taxes. Do not fight the government. Aha moment when I realized the nature of uncertainty in the markets regarding stop losses. I mean, just the fact that everything that I tell you all, do this, don't do this. I've made every single mistake that I talk about that to not do. So when I say always use a stop loss, there was a time where I didn't use stop losses. I'd have a great week of trading. I would make one bad trade and I would ruin the entire week of trading. And I did that enough times where it was just like, okay, something has to change. This is not sustainable long term. If I can be a great trader for 95% of the time and the 5% of the time that I'm a bad trader, it completely erases the 95%, you're not going to get ahead. You have to utilize stop losses to keep that risk to reward ratio in your favor. So, a few times where I held some penny stocks until they became zero and they were now useful tax write-offs last year. But the amount of times that I did that, it just got to the point where it was very clear, if I don't change this, I am not going to be successful trading. Again, any tax questions, I am not a tax expert by any means. You have to see an accountant. Definitely the courses talk about, my style of trading and looking for higher lows and lower highs in my own little version of the Elliott waves. Time frame for the wait list. Again, we're letting in a few people a day, but there's 2,000 on the wait list, so there's no way to estimate when people's times will come up. Started trading with $5,000 saved up from high school. I do both. I manually market sell. I also set stop losses that get triggered. I would suggest finding a CPA that is specializing in cryptocurrency, and that means not only are they familiar in the space, obviously, but they recognize trends and they're a savvy business person to know that they should gain experience and knowledge and become an expert in a space that is going to be growing. And I've got a meeting with my accountant coming up this coming week, and I've already suggested to him, hey, if you want to up your game and increase business, get familiar with this space, and I'll start funneling people towards you, all of our friends in the crypto space here in town. Educational background was just a big time motivation. I did have a mentor. He took me under his wing. He answered all of my questions. And what that did was guide me in terms of, having a question and he would answer it. And then that would bring up another question. And rather than, ask this dude 50 questions a day, I would then say, okay, I need to know more information on this topic. So then I'd hit Google and I'd look on YouTube and I'd read articles and gain information that way. And the biggest step that I took forward in my own technical analysis was mimicking him, emulating his trading style, saying, okay, if he were looking at this chart right now, what would he say? And because we were in forums, I would write it out. I would literally write out my analysis, a paragraph on a chart, and I would do that multiple times every single day. And so that then had me thinking it out and seeing it, and it allowed him to make little tweaks and point some things out or correct me in different ways. But doing your own analysis and not just doing it in your head, it gets lost up there. Write it down somewhere. Make your own little video. You don't have to make them public, but what would Charting Man Dan say looking at this chart? What would stand out to him? What would he say about this volume? What would he say about the overall trend? Do we have higher lows and higher highs? The stock market is currently in a correction. And again, look on the YouTube video. I just put out a 15-minute video or something, say, is the stock market crashing? I think that's the title. If Canadian MJ were to delay into late summer, early fall, it would definitely have an impact, and the stocks would see a dump on the initial news of that. Found the mentor just in forums. Got lucky, found a guy that he knew more than anybody else because he was using charts, and he was more right than anybody with their just wild predictions. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here. So here we are testing the low on Bitcoin. Have to hold that low. Everything that we looked at, most things are correlated here. That's Ethereum. We have a little bit more space before we get down there. And actually, we just broke it. So we did get to a lower low. Bulls tried to buy that dip. But again, it's all favoring the bears all last night into this morning. We have not seen 2 green hours in a row on Bitcoin since back at 9 and 10 last night. That's a long time without 2 green candles in a row. Bears have complete control right now. I hope you all have a good rest of your weekend. Go Patriots. Grew up in Boston. And I will see you all tomorrow for the regular videos. And again, check out all the videos that we put out this weekend. MJ video, overall stock market video, ship chain ICO video. Comment on the video once this is uploaded, and then we'll pick a winner tomorrow morning. Appreciate you watching. Have a great rest of your day.